Okay, let's get started. It's great to be back here with you guys again. Love coming here. I want you to know this morning before I get started, I have some more really, really good news. Is everybody okay with hearing some good news today? There's enough of the other stuff around. I have some really, really good news to share with you guys. I got to tell you, at my advanced age, I feel really, really blessed to get to do what I get to do for a living. To wake up every day with a fire in my bones to do something that God is calling me to do something, to work with a ministry where God's hand is so clearly God's hand is on this ministry. And so I'm really grateful to get to do what I get to do. And today is one of those times I get to share good news. People ask me from time to time, well, what do you do for a living, Monty? Are you like a fundraiser? And I said, well, really, God raises the money. I just get to tell the stories. And that is really how I feel. I get to tell stories of God doing what only God can do, and that's fun. So, here we go. Let's see how we're doing here. Does this work? This remote? Nope. How about this one? Sorry. Okay. There we go. We're in business now. Sorry, we have technological difficulties from time to time. For a few minutes this morning, I want to share with you a little bit, I guess you'd call this some of the nuts and bolts of EEM and our operations, especially over there on the other side of the world, right in the middle of where the Bibles are being distributed. I want to share a little bit about our European team, introduce them to you, tell you a little bit about them for just a few minutes. This is Bart Rubinski. He is our vice president of all operations on that side of the ocean. Bart was born and raised in Poland, came to Christ as a teenager, found a way to come over and went to school at Oklahoma Christian and got his master's degree there, met his wonderful wife Tamika, and then moved back and started working with EEM about 13 years ago. He's in Vienna, in our main office in Vienna. This is Scott Hayes. Scott has been with EEM longer than anybody on either side of the ocean. He's been with EEM about a little over 30 years now. Scott is the guy that does all of our publishing, copywriting, setting up the plates for the printing projects that we do in-house. All of our projects funnel through Scott, and he has been a real busy boy the last few years. This year we're going to do about 150 projects. You can do the math. That's more than 12 a month, and some of the projects that we do are pretty complex. Very demanding. So Scott is a busy guy. So we have just hired a new young man to begin to shadow Scott, and this is going to be very important for us. Traffic. Anybody here been a traffic jam before? Okay, yeah. Not in Pleasanton necessarily, but you've been in one. Usually it's because there's a bottleneck somewhere up ahead. There's too many cars trying to go through this one bottleneck. And our work is like that. It's like the internet, broadband. All of the data trying to go through broadband, and suddenly you see the spinning wheel of death on your computer. It's usually because there's too much information trying to go through that strip of broadband. Same thing with our work. All of our projects flow through Scott. So he's only a human being. There's only so much he can do. So about 150 is about as many projects as he can physically do per year. And he's been doing that the last several years. Earlier this year, we've been looking for somebody for about 2 years, but we finally found that person. We believe that God found that person for us. And we've hired him some help, someone to shadow him. Here in a couple of years, this is going to double our broadband. This is going to double the number of lanes we have for our traffic. So we're going to be able to double our production again, which you'll see later on is going to be very necessary. Before I go on further here, is anybody here don't know anything? Is there anybody here that doesn't know anything about EEM at all? Okay. Real quickly, let me tell you what we do. We get Bibles to people in what we now know as the former Soviet Union. The Soviet countries, all of the Eastern European bloc of nations, Russia, all of those other former Soviet countries. As you probably know, those are countries that the Bible was removed from by the communists very systematically, very aggressively, and very successfully removed Bibles from society. Now those people want the Bible back in their society. They want the Bible. They're hungry for the Bible. And we have been given the honor and the blessing to provide those Bibles free of charge to whoever requests. So we respond to requests, distributing Bibles. And as you'll see, as the day goes on, there's a lot of people requesting Bibles. A lot of people. Years ago, we'll talk about this a little bit more during worship, 1961, when EEM began, we had to smuggle them. We smuggled Bibles because they were illegal to own. So we smuggled Bibles across the Iron Curtain into these countries. Today, we drive them across borders and distribute them by the tractor truckload. That's a little bit about who we are and what we do. Scott Hayes does our publishing and copywriting. This is Dasha Novikova. She is our director of operations in Ukraine, the nation of Ukraine. I've been coming here now. I think this is my 7th time to come see you guys. We're old friends now. And I've been telling you every one of those years about what we've been doing in Ukraine. We're distributing Bibles into the public schools in the nation of Ukraine. At their request, they're requesting Bibles into their public schools, teaching a Christian ethics curriculum in their public schools, an elective in their public schools. The lowest, it is an elective, but the lowest percent of students taking this elective in any region in Ukraine so far is 85%. And the highest is 96%. So that tells you how hungry these people are for the Bible. Dasha is the one who first knocked on the door and got it opened and continues to develop relationships. Dasha, now 10 years into this, we've now been distributing Bibles into public schools in Ukraine for 10 years. We've distributed more than 3.5 million Bibles into public schools. You'll hear during worship today that continues. Doors continue to open. in Ukraine. Dasha, I'm telling you guys, we have the A team over there. Dasha is, she could do anything, but she chooses to do this. Her relationship is so good with the Minister of Education, she can go in the Minister of Education building in Kyiv, the capital city, go anywhere she wants. People know her. But also now she has developed such credibility. This is the Minister of Education for the nation of Ukraine, Sergei Skarlov. And he is recently appointed about a year ago. That is Dasha. If you look right there, there is Dasha presenting, showing him one of our books, Bibles that we distribute. She has such a relationship. She has now been appointed on the commission that oversees the approval of regions for the distribution of Bibles and the Christian ethics curriculum. EEM now has one of our employees on the commission that oversees all the operations of the Christian ethics curriculum in the public schools in Ukraine. That is Dasha. This is Oleg Yakomenko. He lives in St. Petersburg. He is Russian, came to Christ as a teen, preached for about 25 years, and now he's our director. His region is Russia and Asia. A little tiny region that he covers. It's huge. But an amazing guy. This is Yaro Marchin. His region that he covers is Central Europe and the Baltics. Just to give you an idea of the quality of our team, Yaro has a PhD in linguistics and speaks 6 languages. He's now working on his 7th. He speaks English better than I do. I have 3/4 of a language that I speak. Yaro speaks 6 and working on his 7th. But he for a PhD, he has such an engaging personality. He's so friendly and so fun to be around. Just an amazing guy. This is Dimitros Agaropoulos. He is our representative in Greece, in Athens. I've been telling you guys now for 4.5, 5 years now, we've been distributing Bibles to churches and ministries reaching out to Muslim refugees that are flooding into Europe. We've been doing that for almost 5 years now. Demetrios is the one that has head up all of that distribution. He's also knocked on doors that you'll hear that are opening up later on during worship time. This is Sasha Turan. EEM has seen a little bit of growth over the last 7 or 8 years. We are distributing this year. We will distribute 7 times at least, 7 times the number of Bibles, books, 7 times the amount that we distributed in 2013. 7 times, 700% growth in 8 years. So we've grown a lot, and it put a lot of pressure. We used to do everything out of Vienna, but now we have these regional directors. Well, if you know anything about supply chain management, logistics, we're talking about distributing books, driving books across borders into 30 different countries. You're talking import, export taxes. You're talking about regionalizing the printing, which we'll get to in just a minute, and the distribution centers, so to keep our costs down. Several years ago, we realized that we needed somebody to manage the supply chain, to run the supply chain management software with logistics experience. So Bart sent out an email and he said, we're looking for somebody. Hopefully they would have an advanced degree in logistics. Number 2, that they would have had experience in working with supply chain management software. Number 3, they need to live in Vienna. Number 4, and have a visa to work. And number 4, it would really help if they spoke Ukrainian and Russian. Sure. What, you want to have blue eyes instead of brown? What? He put out this email, and we're going, how are you going to find somebody that speaks Ukrainian and Russian, has a degree in logistics, and lives in Vienna? What? 2 weeks later, Sasha contacts us. We put out a job posting. He responded. He has a master's in logistics. He has personally written supply chain management software and worked with it for 6 years before he came to work with us. And he's from Ukraine, so he speaks Ukrainian and Russian and lives in Vienna. And now Sasha, like a maestro conducting an orchestra, works at his cubicle there at work, and with about, I think there are 6 screens, and directs our distribution into 30 different countries, across borders, and he's just like a maestro conducting the orchestra there from our office in Vienna. This is the kind of people that we have on our team. This is the kind of team that God has put together. I wish we could tell you that we just have a great HR department. We don't have an HR department. This is God. God is our HR department, and God has put together this team. I just think it's helpful for you to sometimes meet some of the people, see some of the faces. All right, this is what I would call our geographic footprint, where we operate. Everywhere that you see the name of a country on this map, that's a country where we are distributing Bibles this year. There are 30 different countries. Now, as you can see, all the way from the UK, all the way over here to the far right, Kazakhstan. Now, I promise you, everybody here, before you walked in, you knew exactly where Kazakhstan was, right? Some of you are lying. Okay. You can see how huge our geographic footprint is. From the UK to Kazakhstan is over 3,000 miles. Now, I talked to you about all the distribution logistics. I want to share real quickly the printing. People ask, where do you print all these books? Well, we don't print any of them here in the United States, obviously, because that would cost a lot of money to ship them overseas then. The idea of our work is we want to keep the costs down without sacrificing quality to get more Bibles for the buck. That makes sense, right? Keep the cost down, don't sacrifice quality, so that we can get more Bibles for the dollars that partners like you guys give. So one of those strategies is printing. We strategically plan and locate our printers based on our distribution. Let's just say this. We get to go shop for printers. We find out where it's going to be best to print and ship out of based on import, export taxes, logistics, all that kind of stuff, right? And then we go find that location, and we get to walk in, like in Kyiv, Ukraine, on the right. We walk into the nation of the capital city of Kyiv, Ukraine. We get to walk into the city, and we get to ask the question, okay, who are the 3 best printers in the city of Kyiv? The best printers. We find out the names, then we get to go shop. We get to walk in and tell them, here's what we're doing. We're printing Bibles. Those Bibles are going to go into your public schools here in Ukraine, in your country, where your children are going to be learning about God in their public school class. And sure enough, wherever we go, including Kyiv, Ukraine, sure enough, one of the printers at least hears what we say And they respond essentially by saying, "Are you kidding me? Count us in. What price do we need to beat? We want to be in on this." This has happened in every one of these locations. Kyiv, Ukraine. Great quality printing. They gave us a great price because they feel like this is participating in the resurrection of their nation, with Christ as the foundation and the Word of God as the foundation. So we get to do this in Kyiv, Ukraine. We do this in Vienna. We do this in St. Petersburg, Russia. We have a printer in Athens, Greece. Another one in Belgrade, Serbia. And then a warehouse in Siberia. We will distribute 75,000 Bibles in Siberia this year. You didn't think that there were people in Siberia. But isn't that ironic? When you think of Siberia, what's one of the first things that comes to your mind? The gulags, right? Cold, but also the gulags where Stalin sent people for decades. Russia's version of concentration camps. And millions, tens of millions died in those concentration camps, in gulags, in Siberia. Now we're distributing Bibles in Siberia. How ironic. But you can see strategically we're spread out all over our geographic footprint, regionalizing the printing, regionalizing the distribution warehouses. Bottom line, keeping the cost down. We want to be good stewards of the money that you give us so that we can buy the most Bibles for the buck. Okay? Any questions about that? I know it's a big room. Yes, sir. Yes. Put them together. Let me make sure I understand your question. Put them together, meaning? The binding. Yes. All of that is done in the same place. The printing and the binding and all of that takes place in the same location. The printer does all of that. Yes. Belarus? Yes, we have a really? Wow, there's been a few things going on in Belarus the last couple of years. I have a picture. I'm going to see if I can find. If you find me after church this morning, I'm going to give me an email address. I'm going to send you a picture. Belarus. Sorry. This is free. I'm not going to charge you for any of this for the next couple of minutes. Okay. Belarus is the home of what many call the last European dictator, the last true dictator of the Soviet Union is in Belarus, and they had an election last year, and all the polls showed him losing by a huge margin, and somehow he won with the 89% of the vote. Amazing how that works. And people protested all over Belarus, especially in Minsk, the capital city. That's awesome. We have pictures of people. I'm sorry? Your cousin was killed. There you go. We have pictures of protesters carrying Bibles supplied by EEM as part of their protest that we want the Bible in our country. Anyway, it's a cool picture. Protesters carrying Bibles in Belarus. We have a printer in Minsk, Belarus. Okay, is this kind of fun? Kinda? Yes, sir. No, not in public schools. Schools are not the only place where we distribute Bibles. We distribute Bibles to churches, to ministries, to individuals, whoever requests. But every one of those countries, 30 countries, we're distributing Bibles into those countries. 6 of those countries this year, we'll talk about this during worship, 6 of those countries will distribute Bibles in their public schools this year. 6. Okay? Great questions. Any more? This is time to ask. I'm not going to let you do this during worship. So jump in now or in between or after. Yes, sir. Oh, yes. We will distribute well over 100,000 Bibles in Russia this year. More like 150,000 in Russia. It is not illegal to own a Bible in Russia at all. Putin's a Christian, didn't you hear? So at least for image purposes, he is fully behind distribution of Bibles. He's fully behind people owning Bibles for right now. We'll see what the future holds. He likes for people to think he's Christian. So this is one way that he does that. We're just fine with that. We're okay with that because we can distribute Bible anywhere in Russia that we have a request. Not a problem at all. Driving over Russian borders. Anything else before I move on? Okay, good. Next. This is our logo and our tagline. Our tagline is, the Bible, we want everyone to get it. I love that tagline. It actually is double-edged. It has 2 meanings. First of all, we want everyone who doesn't have a Bible to get one. But second of all, we want everyone who has received the Bible to, open it, read it, and get it. So, how's that going? I'm glad you asked. That's the next question. What we are finding all over our geographical footprint, we are finding people who are hungry for the Bible. They're requesting the Bible. And then when they receive a Bible, they're devouring it. We'll talk about this a little bit more during our worship time. People are hungry, and when they receive a Bible, they're devouring it. And then we are witnessing this all over our geographical footprint. They're hungry, then when they get one, they're devouring it, and then they're following. They're doing what it says. I know, what a concept, right? It's kind of cool. They're reading things in their Bibles, and they're going, I think we should do that. Jesus even said that one, don't just talk. I mean, the one who does what I said, that's the one that's like the built the house on the rock, right? Those one who hears these things and does what I say. So we are seeing this happening all over our geographical footprint. Let me give you some examples. In Ukraine, in Kyiv, Ukraine, there is a ministry. It's called Rankova Zerka. And translated, that means morning star. That's the name of the ministry. I love the name of this ministry, Morning Star. What they do is they have a drug and alcohol rehab center. They also work with Ukrainian teens. If you know anything about the welfare system in several of these countries, including Ukraine, there are a lot of orphans. more in several of these Eastern European countries than higher than the average in the world, number of orphans per capita in a population. And there's a welfare system. These children are put into these orphanages, and then they're taken care of until they're 15, and then they're kicked out. Well, they still don't have any family. They don't necessarily have any skills yet because these schools are run so poorly. And they're kicked out when they're 15. That's not a great age to kick a kid out into the world. So there are a lot of ministries like Rankova Zerka, Morning Star, that work with these kids the last couple of years that they're in the welfare system, and then the first couple of years that they're out, from age 13 to 17. One of those is this one right here. We've been distributing Bibles now in Morning Star in Kyiv for the past 3 years. This is Lyra. She started to visit the church on campus there of Morning Star. Earlier this year, she became a part of a quest weekend. They take these kids, one of the things they do, they take them out of the city. For many of them, the first time they've been out of the city ever, to a retreat location, and they do a weekend spiritual retreat called Quest. And they're finding great success in getting these kids out of the city, getting them out of nature, and then introducing them to God and Jesus Christ on this spiritual retreat. Lyra went on the quest, was baptized at the end of it. She told us that she is so thankful to receive this Bible. This is the first book that she has ever owned in her life, and she reads it every day. She's so thankful to receive this Bible. Vasily is was ministered to by their drug and alcohol rehab center. He told us he was so profoundly unhappy and miserable and just filled with hate, and coming to the rehab center, receiving the Bible, he has now met Jesus Christ, given his life to Jesus, reading the Word every day. So thankful to receive a Bible. This is Mariana. She is 14, just about to be kicked out of the system. She was baptized just a couple of months ago in the Morning Star program. She tells us, she said, I did not have a Bible, but now I have one, and I can study the Word of God. And this is a quote from her. She says, figuratively speaking, I am now nourishing my spiritual baby. She realizes she's a babe in Christ and is ready to grow up in Christ. These kids, guys like Vasily, this hopefully can put a face on our distribution. So when you're giving money to provide Bibles, these Bibles are given to people. Not that what the Gideons do is a bad thing, because it's not. But we just don't stick Bibles into hotel rooms. We respond to requests, and those requests are given to us by people. So when we respond to the requests, we're giving Bibles to people, even in the schools. Yes, they're going to the school library in Ukraine, some of the countries, but there's a child that's reading that Bible. There's a person. These are some of the people that are receiving the Bibles. Next, talking about doing what the Bible says. I think there's a passage in there where Jesus said, inasmuch as you have done it to the least of these, you've done it to me. We have recently, Yaro, remember the guy that speaks 6 languages? He found a beautiful opportunity in Romania at schools for the Roma, or the Romani. These are the people who are derogatively referred to as the gypsies. There are pockets of the Roma, different pockets and communities all over Europe and Russia. The word gypsy is actually a slur. You're probably aware of this, coming from the word gyp, which means to slander. So when you call someone a gypsy, you're calling them you're the stealers, you're the slanderers, you're the people that do horrible, horrible things. The Roma are outcasts pretty much in every society, every community where they reside. They live to themselves. They are certainly at the tail end of receiving any kind of help from any government entity. They have their own schools in most of the countries. One of those is Romania. Yaro found this location in Romania, and we are distributing Bibles now to a school for the Roma. These kids, their future is locked in. I mean, how does a kid break out of that? There's no opportunity, there's no possibility under the current and old way of doing things. They have no hope. And if they do try to step out from the community, they're not equipped in any way to live their life. The Rome, they're a pretty tough bunch. They have earned the slur in a lot of ways, but they're still people. And now, for the first time, Roma children are reading Bible stories in their schools. And they're getting to know Jesus in their schools. So you guys are getting in on that. And we don't know what the future holds, but I promise you this, there's a lot more hope today than there was last year at this time. If Roma children are reading stories about Jesus Christ and receiving Bibles, the least of these. Next, this is Vanya Prokopchuk. He and his family do work also with children caught up in the Ukrainian welfare system. His ministry is called Uzmishki. I love the name of that ministry. It translated, it means smiles. So he goes down to the orphanage in Kyiv, takes the kids out to the park 2 or 3 times a week, hands out Bibles. Once again, for many of these, the first book they've ever owned in their lives, tells them Bible stories, ministers to these kids, gets to know them, finds out when they're going to turn 15, and then they turn them over to another ministry there in Ukraine. They're starting, I know this is a weird idea, mission works collaborating together. I know. What a weird concept. That they work together, and Vanya helps the kids until they're 15, and then he turns them over to another ministry that helps those kids starting when they get kicked out of the system to transition into society. So they're working together, and we're distributing Bibles to Izmishki. Is this fun? This is fun. Putting some names and some faces on the numbers that I'm going to give you in a few minutes. Okay, real fast. 10:15, we're done, right? There's not a trap door here or anything, is there? Just a loud bell, right? Okay. You never know. Okay. I want you to... We're going to go inside one of these school projects. We're distributing Bibles into the public schools of the nation, in the nation of Croatia, this year and next year. We just finished at the end of May the largest and most complex single project in the history of EEM. It was in Croatia, distributing over 290,000 children's Bibles into the public schools of 6 different cities in the nation of Croatia. 290,000. Now, you want to know how many that is? That is 9 semi-tractor trailer full of pallets and pallets, that size of a truck, pallets and pallets of Bibles. 6 different cities. 2 of those cities have population more than 1 million. So you can imagine the number of schools, the different locations, and taking those, unloading those. There's a little close-up, just the pallets of Bibles, just the number of Bibles. Bibles into the public schools of Croatia. 290,000 this year. Excuse me? That is the largest single project we've ever done. That's one project of the 150. Most of the 150 are a lot less than 290,000. Thank goodness. But that's one project of the 150 projects we talked about a while ago. One project, 290,000 children's Bibles. Now, is that a warning bell or that is all over bell? That sounds like it's an all over bell. Yeah, that's good. I'm not going to go any further. I'll be right here if anyone needs to ask some more questions in between, and then I'll be out there in the foyer after worship this morning. I look forward to sharing some more good news during worship. Hi, I'm Monty Tuttle.
Monty.
Yes, great to meet you. Thank you.
So my family is the Zaretsky family
How about that?
of Minsk. And my grandfather passed away when I was 12.
Okay.
I didn't know too much until later years. You know, I learned more as I got more. I delved into, I went through the Ancestry.com